We're going to begin tonight at 5 with breaking news. A jury is now in place in the homicide trial of Sade Robinson's accused killer.
Maxwell Anderson is accused of killing and dismembering Robinson last year. The jury selection process just wrapped up in the last few minutes. Our Bill Miston was in court and has the latest.
Jury service is, I believe, your highest form of civic responsibility that you will have as citizens of Wisconsin or citizens of the United States of America.
Shortly before noon, 40 men and women walked into Judge Laura Crivello's court. Some will ultimately decide the case against this man, 34-year-old Maxwell Anderson.
If you're ever charged with a crime or you're ever a victim of a crime, you will truly understand how important it is to have fair and impartial jurors listen to the evidence and apply facts to law.
73 jurors spent the morning filling out this questionnaire, asking basic background questions and probing familiarity with the case.
That if the jury questionnaires to a number of the questions it asks, can you be fair and impartial? If we look at him and we say this one's out, we'll strike that one.
Prosecutors say Robinson was last seen alive on a first date with Anderson on April 1st, 2024. The next day, Robinson's burned-out car was found near 30th and Lisbon. Surveillance stills show a man investigators believe is Anderson walking away from the area. That same day, a severed leg was found along Lake Michigan near Warnemont Park. Over the next week, human remains were found at several other locations. Anderson was later arrested near his home during a traffic stop. Previously unsealed warrants say a confidential informant told investigators Anderson talked about his intentions to kill Robinson.
You know, the concern is, well, hopefully the questionnaire will ferret out so many of them that we're left with a good group to do our voir dire with.
That was our Bill Miston reporting. As the court sifts through its pool of jurors and makes up its final lineup, the memorial for Sade Robinson is growing. This is at the Pizza Shuttle near Farwell and Kane, where she worked. You can see the main color in all of this is pink. That was Robinson's favorite color. Flowers and stuffed animals lined the mural, a show of support from a community that loved her dearly.
Well, because of the nature of this case and the disturbing details we do know about, there is a big potential this trial could really weigh heavily on the minds of the jurors and those sitting inside of the courtroom.
The jury is going to have to look likely at some difficult pictures, potentially videos or other medical type evidence. And certainly it might be tough on the jurors and certainly tough on people watching the trial.
It's important to also note the court will always respect the victim and only use evidence necessary for the trial.
Legal expert and criminal defense attorney Julius Kim from the law firm of Kim and Lavoie will join us this evening on both Fox 6 News at 9 and Fox 6 News at 10 to discuss the difficulty of finding jurors who actually don't know much about a high-profile case, the big picture of a high-profile trial, and any key takeaways from today's proceedings. We look forward to our discussions with him.
Once jury selection is complete, we will stream the Anderson trial gavel to gavel on the Fox Local mobile app, and the Fox News Milwaukee YouTube channel. Also on Fox Local, we're going to have in-depth coverage of the murder of Sade Robinson from our team of reporters. This is your opportunity to get up to speed on the case before the first testimony takes place.
Context of white supremacy. Live in Milwaukee. Today's date, Tuesday, May 27, 2025. So I have been told, late May in Milwaukee. Spoken into existence, I reckon. Before we get into the details, the trial and all that, kudos, much appreciation, gratitude to all of the investors in the C.O.W.S over the last 16 years. Hopefully we have been worthy of your time and energy. All of the investors all over the known universe who invested because this was not planned when Gus T got back from California, which really does not feel that long ago to me. But Gus T was, thrilled, was able to go to California and do all that research for Jonestown and the zebra murders and everything else. I was so pleased to come back and just rifle through all the amazing information that I gathered and organize and detail and everything else so I can, do some writing on Jonestown and everything else. And then, oh yes, we've been talking about the murder of Sade Robinson. We started talking about this from April of last year, right when the young 19-year-old was dismembered, killed. We were talking about this case and kept up to date with the case for the next 13 months. Reached out in March to speak with Miss Scarborough, Sade Robinson's mother, after some nudging and being able to just, speak with her and keeping in touch with her like, man, maybe we should go to Wisconsin to get as much detail, learn as much as possible about all of this case. And given what Neely Fuller Jr., the great, had to say about the significance of Jeffrey Dahmer, maybe, as I said, this was not planned, and to kind of mention the idea of going to Milwaukee, and if listeners would be willing to invest, do you think this is constructive? And Doge and Elon Musk firing and laying off folks, everywhere, left and right. Man, got to save every nickel. We don't have money to be wasting to send no count Gus to Milwaukee. But folks invested, supported all the way through. So just, again, enormous, very humble thanks from Gus T to all of the investors, hopefully worthy of your time and energy. And then these, I don't know, I guess however long we're here, hopefully this will be worthy of your time and energy, and even especially so because the broadcast schedule is disrupted while we're here, as opposed to having other guests on and other concepts. We're here talking about the murder trial and things happening in Milwaukee. So hopefully all of this will be worthwhile in helping us get a better understanding of white supremacy racism, what it is, and how it works. Perhaps I'll even be able to nab some of the folks from the region to share a word, chat with us while we're moving through the court proceedings. But again, huge gratitude to all of the folks who invested, made this happen. For Gus T to end up in Wisconsin again, it is not lost on me at all. This is the second time in our 16-year C.O.W.S broadcast history that Gus T has come all the way to Wisconsin to broadcast. The first time around, 15 years ago, I was in La Crosse, which is on the opposite side of the state. This is eastern Wisconsin. La Crosse is western Wisconsin, both lame in different ways. But I was here with Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. Soothing Lotion for the White Privilege Conference, 11th at that time, 11th annual White Privilege Conference in La Crosse. You can go back in the archives and hear broadcasted every day. That was much shorter than this event is scheduled to last. But the White Privilege Conference, that lasted a full, not even a full week, less than a full week, would be broadcasted every day while those festivities were going on. And there is no cognac club, at least none that I have found so far in Milwaukee. That's it. I will also add, much like when I came to Wisconsin the last time, man, it has been counter-racist grind. Now, you can go back, when my man said, check my record. You can go back and look at the archives and see the day before I departed for Wisconsin in 2010, April of 2010, no less, we had Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and admitted racist Timothy Wise both on the program on the same day. Dr. Welsing was guest one, Timothy Wise guest two, and I believe that was Easter Sunday, unless I had been misinformed. But that was that Sunday, and then I left for Wisconsin on Monday. Got there, we started broadcasting on Wednesday. broadcasted through the entire conference, Wednesday through Saturday, and left on Sunday to come back to Seattle. We had, if my memory serves, we had Dr. Mwalimu Baruti as a guest on the program that Tuesday. Counter-racist grind, and did the exact same thing this time to come back to Wisconsin, ran around for the Seattle International Film Festival 51st edition, 32 films plus the short festival where I think it was like 6 films, but all of that, all about white supremacy, racism, and so much that I could say about that. Even interviewed a New Zealand filmmaker about white supremacy and the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand. Are you serious? All of that, literally, the festival ended on Sunday with Gus T watching a movie about a non-white, non-black female transmogrifying herself into a white person. Hair, eyes, skin color, or lack thereof. That's the last film that I watched. That was Sunday. Sunday evening, so I went to see that film with my luggage and departed the theater for the airport to come to Wisconsin. Counter-racist grind. Now, coming to Milwaukee, Sade Robinson murder trial. I have never covered a murder trial before. Never. And I told Miss Scarborough, Sade Robinson's mother, when we were talking about coming out here, she's like, have you done this before? Like, covered a murder trial? No. Never. But first time for everything, still learning. And I would encourage, like, hey, it doesn't necessarily have to be a murder trial, but, oh, yeah, you should go. In fact, there was a high school there, Homestead High School. They were there, and it looked like they were all white. I'm going to have to look on the map to see where that is in Wisconsin. But there was a group of high school students there this morning, I'm going to say like before 10 a.m. I think they were present, and they hung out for at least a couple hours. They hung out. I don't know if this was an assignment. There was at least one teacher with them. I don't know if this was like a government class or project, or I don't know if maybe they were friends with Sade Robinson or whatever the case may be, but they did have a group of young people there, and hey, thumbs up. That can be counter-racist research, and it can be counter-racist research on the sneak. Now, I got to the courthouse at about 7:45, thereabouts, which is a little bit later than I had anticipated, but I got there at about 7:45. The courthouse opens at 7:30, and Miss Robinson, or the Sade Robinson trial component, wasn't scheduled to begin until 9. I got there early because they had so many news reports about the murals around town for Sade, and they've been talking about this like, oh man, it has been on television big time. Like in Wisconsin, maybe wherever you happen to be in the world, but in the Milwaukee area, it is on TV all day long. Like they broadcasted the trial, and they have been talking about this on the news. Even yesterday and days in advance, they've been talking about it like all weekend long, like, oh my goodness, and what's going to happen at the trial, and bringing on different defense attorneys, like very O.J. Simpson-ish feel to it on a much smaller scale, obviously, because it's not like being talked about like that across the land, right? But trial scheduled starting today, but you can learn even before they started with Sade Robinson. They had, I think, like 4 other cases. I guess, why did I take notes? I wrote it down. So before they got to Sade Robinson's case, they had 4 other criminal defendants. 3 of the 4 privileged black males. And one of them, he wasn't even present. His black mother was present to testify that he had had a mental health crisis and could not be here with us in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. But the others were present. And in fact, she even fussed at one because he was late. And when I say late, he was like less than 60 seconds late, like literally. They had just hit the gavel, bang. Leroy Jenkins. Oh, Leroy ain't here? Uh-oh, we about to get the warrant out. Let's see. Can we get the warrant papers for Leroy? And then bang, Leroy burst into the room like, whoa, Leroy here. Whew, Leroy here. So, I mean, it was like 30 seconds type late type of a thing, literally. And so he ran up front, and I could have wrote down his whole name. I just didn't, that's not what I was there for. Even in terms of scientific purposes, I thought, but it was still like, that's not really what I was here for. Like, yeah, that is public record, but I mean, privileged black male, is that necessary? Anyway, so Leroy gets there like 30 seconds late, and same judge for Sade Robinson's case, Judge, see if I can say it correctly, Crivello, he says, Leroy, why were you late? And he looked like he actually was wiping sweat from his brow. He said, I got lost, man. Now, I will testify. It is real challenging to find the courtroom where all of this is taking place. Now, I don't know about people who live in Milwaukee and maybe you get to come up here once or twice a year every so often, but whoo, if you are going in for the first time, wow, you will totally feel like you are in some sort of maze or scavenger hunt. Like it is not no straight walk into the bill. Like you have to go up, man, like even the directions that I got from the white woman in the courthouse. Matter of fact, I give you my white woman true crime moment. So I get through the metal detectors and all that, which, took some time. I get through this morning. It's like a little after 8 a.m. And so I go to the white woman because I've never been to this facility before or Milwaukee. I say, where is the courtroom for Sade Robinson? And she says, ooh, are you going to watch? I immediately remembered our study of Columbine and so-called true crime. And they said the number one supporters and folks who are all about that true crime, white women. Just the way that she said it, ooh, because she didn't know if I was a journalist. She didn't know if I could have been a relative, right? She doesn't, I mean, in that case, would have been really inappropriate. Ooh, Sade was my niece. There ain't no, ooh, that's not how I'm feeling about it at all, which that's not how I'm feeling about it. Like Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'm not even cool about being here. So, I mean, but I mean, this is just entertainment. This is, get your popcorn and, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen today. You think they're going to put the pictures up? Oh, I hope they put the autopsy photos. I got chocolate-covered popcorn like I'm back at the festival, see. Anyway, but she gave me the directions. See, this is how convoluted it is. She said, okay, now, the way that you get to the Sade Robinson trial is you go and catch the elevator. And when you go upstairs, you hang a left. You walk straight. Do not walk down the stairs. You need to continue across the sky bridge. Now, even that is important because when you get there, it is very easy. The stairs are directly in front of you, and you would be walking straight. You'd have to really have that in mind, like, oh, yes, I'm not going down the stairs. I need to walk around and continue on the sky bridge. This is where, like, the maze of it all, because you're walking from one building to another, even though they're connected. Once you walk to that other building, you have to take another elevator. You go from there to the 6th floor and continue on the maze around the building, and finally, there's the courtroom. But I mean, it is not easy to find at all, which the judge acknowledged, but she still said, be on time, Leroy, be on time. I was about to put a warrant out for your arrest, which is a blackmail privilege. You know? Anyway, so again, 3 of the first 4 criminal defendants before they got to the murderer suspected of Sade Robinson, privileged black males in Milwaukee. All right, so we get to the trial. I will say, I guess, before we get to the trial, Milwaukee is extra super lame. Like lame. If this ends up like in the historical archives for Wisconsin and all that, like, wow, that nigger actually did pretty good work and was there every day and took notes and all that good stuff. Hey, Milwaukee is lame, out of this world lame. Like, how lame is it? This place doesn't really have anything but beer taverns. I don't watch baseball, but I was reminded, what is the baseball team called here? The Milwaukee Brewers. And they got lots of pubs and taverns and bars. And then I remembered the frickin' case that I came here for. A big part of that is going to bars. I passed one of the bars as soon as I got off the airport. Like, oh man, that's coming up in the court case. What I've been saying for 16 years, worst combination in the known universe. Alcohol. Dahmer. Especially if you're drinking and they're not. Eep. Anyway, Milwaukee is super extra lame. It reminds me of Buffalo. It's just beer taverns I don't even know what it is to do here. Like beer taverns and Lake Michigan, and hope you don't get drunk and kidnapped and stolen and all the rest of it. Like, I'm gonna have to add. That's gonna be one on my mission. Like, as I'm talking to people, black people in particular, like, have you checked your water? 2, do you enjoy residing here? Maybe put it on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, have you thought about moving to anywhere else? Do you want to? Do you enjoy it? You have options to be someplace else, and you just, I like it here. My parents grew up here, and, they got great schools, great food. I love going to the tavern every now and then. Like, they'd have to tell me I got great memories of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar dominating. I said, that's one thing I'm going to see if I can steal time to do. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I cannot imagine what his experience was here in the 1970s. Jesus Christ, can you get me to Los Angeles? Like, I don't care about no smog. I don't care about no wildfires. I don't care about no earthquake, man. Get me to LA. What can you imagine being a 7-foot Muslim Negro in 1970s Milwaukee? Oh my God, Brother Kareem, I have got to go, and that's one on my list. That's not what I came here to do, but oh my God, brother, did he put that in his biography? Like, man, I don't know about no Jeff Dahmer, but I know about being a 7-foot Negro in Milwaukee. Brother Kareem, woo! Victim of white supremacy for sure. I see why I got to dip. I don't know what to tell Giannis to do, but I could not stay no buck for my whole career. Now, speaking of I told you they had a high school that visited the courtroom today, which they did, and it seemed like it might have been all white. They have rules for the courtroom. Say you can't wear no hats in the courtroom. You can't drink no liquids. You can't eat no food, all of which I get. You can't be disruptive. Can't talk, blah, blah, blah. It says no children. Now, that one I paused because I said, now, if it's a newborn, an infant, I get it. If you're still like breastfeeding and they're going to be loud and crying, which is totally normal. I'm not disparaging that, but I mean, it's a court environment. You need a lot of shh. Not really the best environment for a newborn where they got to do their thing and express themselves. Now, it didn't say newborn. It said child. Now, I mean, child could be 17, 16, 10, 7. Now, I mean, I know they talk about grisly things in court, but I mean, Justice, she was here at 10. Are you telling me, like, if you have a 10-year-old and you want to take them to court to, learn about, hey, they had a sex offender in the courthouse today. Maybe that's one. You talk to your child about Jeffrey Epstein and all this and TikTok and all that. Hey. We're going to go watch one of these sex offender trials so you can see what one of these folks look like, hear what some of their charges are. How about that? Make them write a report on it. Or you could be anything, but 10, 12, 13, that's not old enough for court? I don't know. I don't know, it just stood out to me. Anyway, so we get to finally at about 9, we get to, and I did hear people in court who had lots of just glorious things to say about Sade C. Robinson and how she was always trying to help those who needed the most help. Said that she worked pizza shuttle and she would give food to unhoused people and black people who just, didn't have money to come in and buy them a slice. She would hook them up and make sure they got something to eat. Said that she did lots of work to help other folks who needed the most help. That's what we need. Produce justice. That's what we need, particularly young people trying to go to school, do something constructive, who are focused on doing justice, helping those who need the most help, and especially in lame Milwaukee where they got food deserts and all that. Anyway, let's see. So most of them black males who were defendants first up. So we finally get to Sade Robinson's murder trial at a little after 9, which is about what they said. They were on time. They were just doing these other trials before they got started at 9. So a little after 9, they get rolling. And this is jury selection, right? So they're going to be picking out, they're just kind of going over the rules and any amendments. And it stood out to me. It goes so slow in court. Now, I've been in court before, but not for a murder trial, not even close. It is so slow. I remember that about O.J. Simpson, where, you got to stop and review the papers and ask a question, give the defense a respond, and it's just very, very slow, and everybody is very careful about their words, and just the words are so important, and being accurate with word. That was a part of the time. Like, we got to go back and correct because you didn't put the correct word in the document, or the judge didn't say the correct words. She had to correct herself, or somebody else didn't use the correct language, or what have you. Just the words are so important. Let's see, they brought out the defendant. So this is the first time, and even I have to pause, like, I have not covered a murder trial or what have you before, but I was at the sentencing in Buffalo, 2023, sentencing for Peyton Gendron, where they had the explosive moment and some of the victims who were upset and were going to, charge Mr. Gendron. They had to clear the courtroom briefly. I was there for that, and then being here for this case. So some kind of high-profile cases directly related to racism in the 21st century. Gus and the Cows have been, front row there to offer our counter-racist jurisprudence, if you will. Anyway, but being there, and I saw the suspected killer, suspected racist Maxwell Anderson, and they had him in flip-flops, and they had him shackled, even though they removed the shackles once they actually got to the court proceedings and all that. But I was like, oh, okay, make sure that they can't run away. And I had noted, because I had seen pictures, obviously this is the first time that I've seen him in person, but in some of the pictures that I'd seen, he had like a rough beard and a lot more hair, and he didn't have all that, looked clean shaven, looked like he had a haircut recently even, and just looked quite a bit different than pictures that I'd seen of him previously. And he also has been in jail for a year, more than a year now, so I guess that could have an impact too. So the judge, white woman, Judge Crivello, she's going over the proceedings and telling them how, this is jury selection, and we're going to start out with about 73 people. We're going to whittle this down. They whittled it down to 40 from the original batch of 73, and then from there, they have to pick out 12 jurors and 3 alternates. They said they normally do 2 alternates, but they were going to do 3 here, I believe at the request of the prosecution, because they said people might drop out, emergencies come up, that sort of thing. Homicide trial is important. This is not a murder trial. This is a homicide trial. But, they wanted to make sure they have enough people to take everything to conclusion. So now they said that they thought it would be challenging to pick a jury because this case has received so much attention in Milwaukee, newspapers, TV, all the rest of it, that it would probably be challenging to find 12 people who have not heard quite a bit about this case, already developed some sort of opinion. Are they going to be able to block out all that and just make an assessment based on the facts? And they said they thought that'd be very challenging. And so they're going over all of this. And so my thoughts are that, one, and then as I was watching the news, because they were talking about the jury selection process on the news yesterday, that would be Monday, Memorial Day, I said, because they had it on the screen, the jury's not going to be sequestered. And then based on what I heard today, that's true. The judge spent so much time talking about how, you can't talk to, your spouse and friends about all this. You can't be watching TV. You can't be getting on social media and talking about this. You can't be talking to other jurors about all of this. Like, none of that. And so I thought, wow, like, to not be sequestered for this trial? I mean, wow, you would have to, like, not watch television, which the judge did say. But, I'm thinking O.J. Simpson, because they did sequester the jury in that trial. Now, that is expensive because you have to put all those people up for, like, however long the trial lasts. It could be 2 weeks, could be longer. O.J. Simpson had lasted almost a year. So that is expensive. Then you have to guard them, too, if you're going to do all that. But, man, I thought for this trial, like, I do not know how you could live in Milwaukee County, maybe even Wisconsin on the whole, but certainly not Milwaukee County, and turn on the TV, turn on social media, anything. Like, I think you would have to just kind of totally be almost self-sequestered, where you are not talking to folks. You don't even publicize. Like, if you get on the jury, you don't even publicize it. Like, maybe you just let folks know at work that you have an absence. Maybe you tell your boss or whatever, and to tell them not to share it, what have you, because you don't want people bombarding you with all the attention and everything, and just keep it to yourself. Don't say anything. That even with the spouse, because it's generally assumed that the person, if you're married, you all have children, that it's probably not going to be any secrets. So you're probably going to talk to them. Like, man. Anyway, we have to see how all that goes. But they've been talking about that as soon as I got back from court. They were already talking on the news like, oh, yeah, coming up tonight, 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock news. We'll have day 1 of the trial, the jury assessment, and what the trial looks like moving forward once things get started. Now they've got the jury and all that. That's going to be all day for weeks. Like, I just don't know how you would have a jury that is not influenced by all of that, that misses out on all that information, doesn't talk to any, especially if they're not going to be sequestered, their neighbors and family and all that doesn't come up and talk to them. Anyway, but I'll, share on that as we go. But no sequestered jury unless I've been misinformed, and they're just told, don't talk, shush, don't get on social media. So they're supposed to whittle this down from the 40 to 15, 12 regulars and 3 alternates. They bring in the 40 just before lunch. They say, hey, they're just kind of going over procedures. We'll come back after lunch and really get to it. So they come back after lunch, and they're starting to go over the details and asking questions. One of the big things they start with, now you want to talk about how slow all of this is? Man, they whip out the prosecution witness list and the defense witness list, and they read every name kind of slowly. Do you know this person? Which is important. I'm not, disparaging it at all, but just it's not, when you think about like glamorous, the O.J. Simpson trial and the Diddy trial and the R. Kelly trial, it is not, oh yes, we're going to read list of names. Do you know Lindell Jones, Keith Thomas, Susan Quarles, Leonard Robinson, Leroy Hutchinson, and it just goes on. And like the prosecution list, it had over 200 names. So, I mean, you're just sitting there, doing. Now, I will concede there were way more times where someone, a potential juror, did raise a hand. Oh, I do know Leroy Hutchinson. And you have to stop the whole proceeding like, oh, okay, how do you know Leroy Hutchinson? Now, what was illustrative to me from this was the number of potential jurors who had some sort of contact with an enforcement official. It seems lots and lots of folks, white and non-white, either their spouse was cool with one of these enforcement officers, themselves had some sort of contact with these enforcement officers, went to school with some of these enforcement officers. Some of them reported like working in constructive activities with these enforcement officers in other capacities, like so many different ways, so many, like more so than I would have thought. Like if you had asked me prior to, I wouldn't have thought it would have been this many of the different potential jurors saying, oh yeah, I know this person. Oh yeah, I know her. But it was a number where they had to stop a number of times and go back through. I remember one potential juror, they were asking him, it was an enforcement officer, and he said, oh yeah, I know him. We went to school together. I'm like, why? And I believe that this was a white person, the potential juror. So you went to school together. I said, oh, okay. Did you all keep in contact? He said, no, we would hang out in school. I knew him from school, that sort of thing. Know the person's character and all that. She said, well, the judge, she says, well, have you all kept in contact? No. Have you all texted anything like that? No. I said, okay. Do you think you would be able to view him, and they use that word fair, do you think you would be able to process his testimony information in a fair and just manner, just like anybody else? He's starting from zero as you assess his credibility. And he thought about it for a second. He said, well, no, because I already know his character, and we spent all that time together in college, and, I think I would already know that he's trustworthy. She says, okay, thank you. And now I'm thinking, oh, yeah, he's got to go. Like, if I'm on the defense, oh, yeah, he's got to go. You already believe this copper dude, and get on out of here. Get on out of here. But it was not necessarily we went to college together, but it was a lot of we worked together in another capacity. My husband or my spouse is cool with this person or hangs out with this person or worked with this person before. Or I know this person. It was so much of that. It really staggered me. Like, that is another dimension, and maybe people smarter than myself have already discussed this, but that is probably another strong component as to why it is so difficult to get convictions against the enforcement officers because it's probably impossible to get a jury together where they don't have some sort of connection to law enforcement, if not connections to the actual defendant who is on trial. Certainly they, somebody, their husband or their son or grandpa or they themselves got some sort of connections to law enforcement, and the law enforcement apparatus is so large and growing. You add on new facilities. They didn't even have Homeland Security 30 years ago. Now you add that, so you got a whole nother layer of enforcement officials. Just that is so large, and they have so much overlap, and oftentimes you start in one agency and then you train to get that resume and then you move on to another, so especially if you're white. So that was something crossing my mind as well, sitting and listening to all of this being processed day one of the trial. Now, obviously, with jury selection, the big detail, and maybe the most important detail, racial classification. Now, that's what I'm paying attention to immediately. So as soon as the 40 walks in, these are our 40 potential jurors, and we're going to whittle this down to 12 and 3 alternates. I'm looking. How many of these folks are black? Because there's a lot of black people in Milwaukee, so it's no reason for a jury to be all white here. I'm looking around. I don't see a whole lot of Leroys. It looks like it is predominantly white people that are in the potential juror pool. Not totally, but mostly, which even that, because Milwaukee has a substantial population of black people, like, yeah. So I'm kind of writing down to see, is it going to be something where they just get rid of all the black people? Like, how do they kind of do that? And like I said, even some of the black people acknowledged that they knew some of the witnesses, law enforcement witnesses. So they get to whittling, and, the defense prosecuting attorneys, they're going over, out of this 40, these are the people that we just want to strike, get rid of. That fella who said he went to college with the enforcement officials, so he knew he was trustworthy, he got struck. And that's what I was saying, like, oh, no, you got to get him out of here. Get him out of here. But surprisingly, they did. Out of that pool of 40, they did get it whittled down to the 12 and then the 3 alternates. And they went through, like I said, with lots of different questions about can you process the evidence, and are you going to be able to follow the rules? Because there was a white woman, I think she was white. There was a white woman who, she said, oh man, all this, you got to zip it. I'm not going to be able to do that, man. I got my husband. I got to talk to my husband, which is what I said. Like, I think most people just assume you're going to talk to your spouse. And she said, I'm going to tell my therapist too. Like, this just going to be too much, going to cause me too much stress. I'm going to have to talk to both of them about all this. And she also got struck. But I was just like, wow. Like, I also made a note too of, if you do not want to be on a jury and you don't think they're going to just accept, I'm poor and broke, and you make us niggers have a job, and I just can't afford to sit off from work for, 2-3 weeks to figure out if Maxwell Anderson hacked up somebody or not. Tell them I'm not going to be able to close my trap. I'm just a big mouth, and I mean, anything that happened that's a little bit juicy. Well, no, number one, I got to tell my spouse, we've been married through thick and thin, so I don't keep no secrets there. And then once I done told one, I mean, you can't just tell one. So I might even have to get on my podcast. whoa, that's all right. That's strike. Like, that's all you have to do, apparently, if you really don't want to do jury duty. Anyway, so they're going through this whole process to see if they can whittle it down, get it to 40. And they break, like I said, for lunch. They break the procedure, and then they come back and they resume. When I leave, and they gave us like an hour, like 90 minutes for lunch. Now, I think some of that is because the building is a maze, and so if you leave, it takes a while to get back into the facility. Like, it's not one of those 5 minutes or something. You can go out and get your hot dog and then come back in. Like, no, it can take quite a bit of time to get out, and then you have to go through security to get back in. So it could be a lot. Anyway, I exited, sat outside in the sunshine, which was, man, all things considered, pretty cool, so that I could get back, have my regular routine with covering the trial for the rest of the week. I'm trying to get my schedule together so that I can go, take my notes, get back, do like a written update of what happened at the trial, and then do like an audio podcast, what have you, like see if I can borrow some of the folks who are at the trial who've been covering and here working with Miss Scarborough and covering everything that happened since Miss Sade Robinson was murdered, dismembered last year, but borrow some of them, see if they can share some of their thoughts, observations on what's happened, what they think about the trial and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was, I don't know what to say. I will say today was not the high drama intensity component just because they're just picking a jury. I don't even think they televised today because I think they try to avoid putting the jury or potential jurors on television. They're supposed to have some sort of anonymity, as I understand it. So they didn't even televise, I don't think, any of today. They had been saying on television that once the jury selection is done, then you can watch, like if you're in Milwaukee or anywhere, they are live streaming. So if you go to I think it's Fox 6 News, you can watch the live stream on YouTube if you're interested or if you want to see any of the components of the trial. But yeah, hopefully I'll have my schedule down. So it'll be, bam, I'll know. I have kind of set time, probably around 7:30 Central, 8:30, right? A little bit later than normal broadcast time, but right in there. Just give me enough time to get back from the events, kind of get my head together, get my notes together, and then get set up, and then bang, we can, get to broadcasting. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to broadcast and write every day different updates about what transpired, how it relates to white supremacy, racism, what did I learn, all of that with each day as we proceed. So the whittling down process to get it from 40 to the 12 and the 3, I guess the jurors had filled out a questionnaire, and so they had photocopies of that amongst the legal counsel. So they're kind of going through that and making whatever assessments about who to get rid of, who to keep, based on what information they wrote on the jury questionnaires, right? So all of this takes quite a bit of time. And then asking different questions, broadly and this type of thing. I think some of the questions were, would you, if Mr. Maxwell Anderson, if he doesn't testify, would you hold that against him, and blah, blah, blah? Do you understand that you're not required to testify in your defense? Questions like that to just see what their thought process was. But they asked those sort of questions, went through the jury questionnaire. All of this took pretty much every bit of, by the time we got back from lunch, 1:30, all of this took, I'm going to say like 3.5 hours, basically, without breaks. Once we got back from that 90-minute lunch, we had that time to get back in the courtroom of the questioning, wrangling, blah, 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 filtering, all that to get it down to the 12 and 3, which kind of stunned me because I would have, if they had said we had to come back and start tomorrow or whatever, or, maybe we got it down to 6 out of that first pool because they had another potential pool of jurors like locked away in a different room. Like, I don't know if it was 40 or how many, but they said they had the first batch and then they had the next batch just in case they couldn't agree or couldn't get enough for alternates or whatever scenario might present itself. They had that waiting, didn't need it so they could release them. As for, before I get to the breakdown of the jury, I just want to share really quickly too, when I came back in for lunch, there was a line. Now, there was no line when I left at noon. When I came back at like about 1:20, there was a line, substantial line. Man, I think I got about, I'm going to say about a quarter of a way through the line. There was a massive eruption. I couldn't really tell. It sounded like the person may have said, I got a gun, but I'm not sure. I was farther enough back that I just couldn't tell. Either way, there were lots of histrionics shouting, yelling, and wow. um, it was so scary. And because I thought the person could have said, or someone could have said, I got a gun. I didn't know what the reason for the kerfuffle was. I knew it was right at the metal detector and all that, where they're checking your bags and such, but I'm not really sure what started all of this. But it seemed like one person and security had to call in and physically restrain the individual, and there was lots of yelling, and just, it was really like, man, I just said the sentencing 2023 in Buffalo, where there was an outburst in the courtroom and all that, like, woof, taking me back. So they said, you should go to the other side. They're still open, blah, blah, blah. I go to the other side to try to get in because it's such a massive facility, right? I told you it's built like a maze. So I go to the other side of the building to see if I can get through security. And they have lots, and I mean lots of black people who work like for the sheriff department here in Milwaukee County. Maybe that's the case in other locations, but that was a little surprising. Anyway, so I'm going through, and the security sheriff folks are like, are they it seems like they're sending people from the other gate down here to get through. And I said, oh yeah, they had the big, whatever. And she said, what happened at the other gate? And I said, they had some sort of big, and part of my difficulty was because I wasn't up close, right, to see everything that happened. I was kind of in the back of the line. And then, so I could just kind of say that I heard and vaguely saw such, but I really didn't know. So all I could really say was there was a kerfuffle at the front of the line. And, I don't know why that came, but that was the word that came to mind. Some sort of kerfuffle at the front of the line. Man, the security guard, she looked at me so tough, like there was a what? And I said, conflict at the front of the line where the person had to be restrained, and I don't know if they had a weapon or what have you, but it got really dramatic. She said, oh, okay. Like, woo. Like, I even had to process, like, why did you say kerfuffle? Like, part of it's because I really didn't know what it was other than, small dust. Anyway, so I get through the courthouse. I just took that as another omen, the fact that they had this dust up at the front of the line, which I believe was a person classified as black, if that means anything at all. Get back in the courtroom. So they're doing the whole whittling it down process. Finally, after asking enough questions, going through the questionnaire and all that, they get it down to 40 in the jury pool. Now, I think that's kind of wild. Or excuse me, not 40. They get it down from 40. They get it down to the 12 and 3 alternates. I am stunned because I thought it was going to take maybe another day or whatever, or at least it was going to take another batch of people to get the appropriate number, but nope, knocked it down right this afternoon. 12 jurors, 3 alternates, and they went over the rules again, which from what I heard, unless I am mistaken, and it can't be because she asked the jurors afterwards if anyone was taking public transportation, to get home or wherever they were going, because then she would give different instructions about time and all that. So I cannot grasp not being sequestered for a trial of this magnitude, and, we're just going to take it on good faith that you go and behave yourselves. Okay. Anyway, the racial breakdown of the jury. Now, I will have to say, I will confirm this tomorrow, for sure. When they brought the 40 potential jurors into the courtroom, normally the jury box, you normally have like 14 people, maybe 15 people total. They had to squeeze 40 people in. So they brought in all these extra chairs, and then they had like half of the 40 sit on the opposite side of the courtroom. So they're opposite the other jurors, potential jurors in the case. Like, man, it was a little bit challenging to like see everybody, at least from where I was sitting at, which was pretty close. I was right almost directly up front. It was a little bit challenging, though, to see all of the potential jurors, to get a good look at their like head on, looking right in the face, lots of good sunshine on them. It was a little more challenging. For those where I could, like the people that were kind of sitting on my half of the courtroom, that jury box was kind of directly in front of me. I think I was able to nab those demographics without error. So I think that side, they had 6 females, 1 male, 1 black male, 1 black female. That would give us a total of 9. 6 females, 1 male, 1 black female, 1 non-white, non-black female, so-called Asian. And then on the opposite side of the courtroom, and it was a little bit more challenging, like I stood up and kind of moved a little bit forward and did all this, but it was a little more challenging because they were a little bit further away, and then they're seated from a low position. Normally the jury box is elevated. Well, this isn't the standard jury box because they had so many people in the room that they were not elevated, so it was a little bit challenging to see them. That's it. I stood up. I believe it was at least 7 on that side, and since they picked 15 total, I think I missed 1 person because it should add up to 15. But I got 5 females, 2 non-white females, 1 privileged black male, and 1 African American female. That is what I got for demographics with 2, 3. I will double check tomorrow, but that would be 12 white, 3 non-white, 1 black female, 1 Asian female, 1 black, 4. That would be 11 white and 4 non-white. 1 black male, 2 Asian females, and 1 black female. I will double check the demographics tomorrow because once they get it to 15, they'll just have everybody in the jury box. The jury box is right in front of where I sat today, so if I sit in the same location, it should be super easy for me to stand up and confirm these are the 15 people, and this is what I think is the racial composition of the jury, and then I can just note all of the other news coverage. If they give a racial demographic, what does theirs say? And then I can look and compare it to mine. It's also a super female jury, and I mean super duper female jury. In fact, if I'm looking at this correctly, there might not be any white men on this jury because I got 6 females here, and then 5. There might not be any white dudes on this jury. I'm going to have to go back and look at that again because I know I'm missing one. So I guess that I could have missed the white dude, but they might have booted all the white males off of the jury. That is, wow. I would not expect that. They pretty much booted all the males off the jury, period. I told they got that 1 black dude on the jury, but I'm going to have to see. They pretty much got rid of all the dudes, period, and got a super female jury that has a black female, an Asian female, black male, like super duper female jury with a lot of white females. That is interesting. I have to see how that go. I get it. Does the jury empathize with Maxwell Anderson? I don't know. Interesting. I have to think about that as I kind of move through the trial and how the jury feels about all of this, really, because that's what I was thinking about. Like, who would you want to sit on this sort of jury? Which sort of people do you think would empathize with Sade Robinson, young 19-year-old killed, slaughtered in the prime of, really not even to the prime of her life, right? Brain computer still developing. Who would you want on the jury? I was thinking I would want that. I would not probably want white dudes who might be thinking, man, I empathize with old Jeff Dahmer. I took the tour like, nah, get out of here. You know what I mean? I would want I would have wanted more black people on the jury. I don't know who it would have been more beneficial for, to get more black females so they could see themselves, or, you know, this could be my child. You know, I would think black females, but I don't know. You have black parents. Sade's dad was there. I don't know. But I would just want more non-white people. I think the more non-white people, the better on the trial, especially if racism is a component of this. The more non-white people, the better on the trial. And yeah, we'll just kind of have to see how it goes. Update from tomorrow. Well, number one, I'll confirm the racial classification of the jury. Folks can examine and see if there are news outlets that give you what are the racial demographic breakdown of the jury for this case. And if so, do they break it down, you know, white male, white female, black male, that sort of thing. And you can check immediately, are there any white dudes on the jury? Because it might be that they booted all the white. If they did, wow, excellent job for the prosecution, unless they know something I don't know. Miss Scarborough was able to briefly talk to her at the trial. I mean, super brief. She looked so, I want to say pretty, but that seems inappropriate for what it is. But she did look really nice, and, you know, dolled up for court. But even still, just, man, she looked so devastated with it all. And then you have to go and sit through all of this for weeks, see if you can get small J justice for your child. She is a mother. She has more than one child. Her other daughter was there as well. She also just looks so devastated about everything, and heart goes out to them, their whole family, and condolences again for having to deal with all this. And then you got to go and sit in trial, listen to all this for, you know, weeks, and hope for the best. But yes, more to come. We'll get more information. Her father was there as well, and he looked equally devastated about it all. How could you not be? How could you not be? Anyway, let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Got that. Think. At least got most of my notes for today. Again, if anybody is interested in watching the trial and kind of keeping up with things, you can watch Fox 6 News. They are broadcasting on YouTube, so you can see their live stream. I don't think it was on today because they said they were not, you know, they couldn't show jurors' faces and such. But tomorrow should be like for reals day one, and I think they will live on YouTube. I think the WISN, they have an app. That's a local news outlet. They have an app you can download on your phone for free that you can watch the live stream there. Should be a number of outlets. If you're here in Wisconsin or abroad and you want to check in from time to time and see what they're talking about, you should be able to do so for free. Anywho, unless any folks have a quick thought question on day one from the trial, we will wrap up for today and be back tomorrow with updates and all that good stuff. What has happened at day two, the Sade Robinson murder trial. Again, hopefully I will be able to get social and see if I can nab some of the folks, even interviewing them at court, because they have lulls and recesses and all that, to interview some of them, to include some of their thoughts, how they connected with Sade, if they were involved in the search party, all of that good stuff, so that we can learn as much as we can about this just horrendous event. So it should be daily. Tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, methinks. Same time, or yeah, I guess we'll probably do 7:30 p.m. every day, and that's 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So that'd be 7:30, or excuse me, that'd be 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. There we go. For Monday through Friday while the trial is going on. That way I should have time to leisurely get from trial back to Jax and being safe, as relatively as safe as you can amongst all of the terror of Milwaukee. I don't know what to say. Ugliness and beer taverns and all the rest of it, like awful. Anyway, if you have a question, what have you, on day one of the trial, *61 will get you on here really quick. If not, I will get myself together, get this uploaded, and then get myself together for day 2 in the Sade C. Robinson murder trial right here in Milwaukee. Hell on earth, ladies and gentlemen. Hell on earth. Let's see. Again, much obliged to all the folks who invested, helped us get here. Hopefully our coverage worthy of your time and energy. Indeed. Let's see. Sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. Remind us not to waste non-white people's time and energy. Justice for Sade. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
Man, I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.